quality fish.
Today I'm going to talk to you about a little technique that's worked well for me in the last couple years, but particularly this year. The river conditions are low, the smallmouth are in the rocks feeding on crayfish. I'm catching a lot of fish, and here's what I've been using. It's no secret, a lot of bass guys use them, but I don't think a lot of river fishermen use it. It's the Neko Rig. I work it a little bit different. First of all, my favorite worm is a Jack's worm. Case plastics. It's very unique. It's weighted. A lot of guys like to use a unweighted worm when they're fishing Neko Rig, but this works out pretty good for me in the river, especially when I'm fishing in 2-3 foot of water in the rocks. I do take a small tungsten nail weight, maybe a 1/64 up to a 1/16 ounce. It depends on not so much the depth of the water, but the current I'm dealing with. When I pitch it out there, I'm just hopping it. I wouldn't even call it a hop. I would just kind of lift and drop, lift and drop, lift and drop. In other words, I know where the fish are. I know where the crayfish are. I'm not trying to pull it away from them. I just pop it in there. Sometimes even if I'm on a tight shoreline, maybe a little rock ledge, I don't want to pull it off of there too much. Pop it out there, and what this does with the weight in the bottom, it's sending up, vertically in the water column. But the lift and drop, I'm not trying to pull it away. It's a dynamite situation. Another worm I use is the Case little pintail worm. This one does float, but I'm still weighting it with maybe up to a 1/16 ounce, but I'm using the same technique. I'm not worried about getting the smallmouth to chase it as if it was a crayfish. I'm popping it and lift and drop, lift and drop. As far as what line I like to use, it's more of a personal choice. Some people like to use fluorocarbon, some people even braid, some people even mono. I prefer the mono. Keep in mind, I'm only fishing in 2-3 feet of water here. I'm not worried about getting my bait really deep. There's no advantage to the fluorocarbon line. I just think the mono, 8-pound mono, is a little bit more abrasive resistance because we're dealing with rocks. And a lot of times, not only the problem is the smallmouth picks it up and they take off running, or they go behind a rock, and then you're dealing with your line could break if you're not keeping an eye on your line all the time. Got to keep an eye on that line. I've lost a lot of fish myself catching a fish, and maybe in some tough conditions down there in them rocks. After every fish, it's very important to just check your knot, check the line, and here's the key of all. You know what the most important factor with this rig for me has been since I've been using these spear point finesse hooks? You get your 18, 19, even 20-inch fish in them rocks, you hook them, guess what? What's the first thing they're going to do? Pow! They're going to come flying out of the water. Come flying out of the water, maybe once, maybe twice. They come out a third time, you're in trouble. Most of the time you lose the fish. I've had smallmouth up to 20 inches come flying out of the water 4 or 5 times in shallow water, just explode on top of the water. But this 1/0 spear point GP finesse hook gets the job done. I have to say, I think I lost 1 fish so far all summer. That's including me and my clients. That's an amazing number for river smallmouth. Talk to most guys that fishing in rivers, they just hate to see that fish jump. I'm not saying we want the fish to jump, but if they do, I feel very comfortable with this 1/0 spear point finesse hook. But it's just another technique, and particularly when you're in shallow water, you're going to catch a lot of smallmouth. And remember, just a lift and drop motion. Don't try to skim it across the bottom.